What's happening, everybody? I'm back. I know it's been a while. So Florida's new laws on S crimes and chomo crimes and not that kind of stuff, you know. We're gonna get into it in a minute. I know I've been gone for a minute. I just been real busy. I just had, for those of you that are new, I just had a grandbaby, you know, so my first grandchild. So me and my old lady, we just been trying to spend a little bit of time with, you know what I mean, with the little guy, you know. And she loves babysitting him. She loves, you know, so it's kind of like I'm kind of stuck, you know. But I love it too, you know. So Florida. I'm in California. So we all know how California does you don't even go to jail anymore for anything you do, you know. But Florida, man, I heard they passed some crazy ones. I heard they're putting it down on them. And that's the way it should be. That's my opinion. That's the way it should be, you know. They were saying something. I should have got the details first, but I didn't. But I know the basics. You know, like supposedly, if you're like a first offender, I don't know, something with an R on your jacket, whatever. It's real hefty. It's real heavy. You're doing years. You know, you're not just doing 6 months. You're not just doing a year. Whatever they give these chomos. You know, like, but. They were saying that if you're like a repeat offender, they're gonna castrate you. and me, look, honestly, I'm all for it. I say, because that's a mental problem these people have, you know. And if you're like I forgot what it was. If it had anything to do with the child or something, some chomo thing. I heard you're getting like the death penalty, putting you down, you know, like that's crazy, you know. But I hate to say it, I try to be politically correct, you know, but you can't always, you know, and I have to be honest, and you know, and I feel like put them all down, you know, put them all down. What does that one YouTuber say? The wood chipper. Throw them in the wood chipper. I mean, I don't have no sympathy for those people, you know, and it's like S crimes, you know, like chomo charges and S crimes, and that's like the bottom of the barrel. You're the bottom of the barrel, you know. That's and those guys, all they do is reoffend. You know, they go to jail for some short time and then they come out and they reoffend again. And it's like when you're incarcerated, people are like, oh, they're gonna get, no. These guys, they go to you know, their protective housings, whatever, and they go to protective units, and we never see them. You know, like general population guys never see those guys, you know what I mean? You might see them in like transit or something, or you know, whatever, but you're not close to them. You can't. So these guys never get dealt with. These guys never, they just go in there and do their time. They go to these whatever yards and they just keep their head down and lay low, and so nothing really happens to them. Everybody thinks that if you have an S crime or whatever, I never seen those guys on the main line. I never seen you know, I've never been able to, you know, like get action with one of them because you can't get at them, you know. So I'm sure there is situations where they have been, you know, like, but for the most part, those guys are protected, you know. Those guys are heavily protected. And that's what I think is wrong, you know. I feel like it don't matter what your charges are. You go to jail, you go to jail. You get convicted of something, you go to jail. You know, throw them in there with all of us, with everybody. You know, like, and then they'll get their consequences. They'll get their just due, like what's owed to them. You know, like that's owed to them. You know, and I feel strongly about this situation because you know, like, my oldest daughter, when I was going in and out of the system and I was not there for her, you know, let's just keep it real, you know, I wasn't there for her. She lived with her mom and her grandma and her aunt. She lived with a bunch of women and a couple aunts with their old men or whatever, you know, and my daughter got, you know, messed with by some chomo dude, you know, one of her uncles or something on her mom's side. And I don't have no family on my side. It's just me and my sister and my nephew, you know. And she told me about it later on in life, you know, just like, you know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, when she was like 20 or 18, 19, something like that. And you know, I felt some type of way about it, you know. I wanted to just, you know, just go off the handle, you know, but that would just be me repeating the same cycle, you know. Then I would be gone again and she'd be out here alone, and you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't, that's not the right solution. I feel like whoever did it should be incarcerated, should be locked up, and they should be thrown on the main line with everybody, you know, like with all of us. And then, you know, all the guys on the main line could do what they want to do, you know. That's up to them, you know. But protecting them, and you know, this is the thing. My daughter still has, she's like 28 years old, 27 years old, and it still bothers her to this day. And that happened to her when she was, you know, 7 years old, 8 years old, you know, 9 years, whatever, you know. And I try not to think about it, you know, because me personally, I just want to go out and hurt the person, you know. And I know that's not what God wants me to do, you know. And I'm a godly man, you know. And but I'm gonna keep it honest, you know, like I mean, I hope that dude ain't free, and I hope I don't ever see him in traffic, you know. Like that would be something, you know. But you know, it's like, I feel like God's gonna sort it out, you know. These people that are doing this, these wild, you know, like it's Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, like that stuff is that sexual stuff, you know, is like, that shit's crazy, you know. That shit's that's low, that's grimy, that's a slimy ass person, you know, that, to me, my personal opinion, don't deserve to be out here with regular people. You know what I'm talking about? They need to be incarcerated, and whatever they're getting while they're incarcerated, they deserve that, right? They deserve that. So that's just my opinion on all this, you know. And I heard that, I just saw that little short about the Florida laws, and I just thought, man, they're doing it right, you know. They're doing it right. How is somebody going to reoffend if you castrate them, right? They're not going to reoffend. If they're multiple offenders or whatever, and they're getting the death penalty, how are they going to reoffend? They're not. They're getting the death penalty. This person's reoffending, keeps doing it. You got to think about the people's lives that they're affecting. You know what I mean? The children's lives that they're affecting forever. These guys do this to a child that's a child, you know. This child has to go through their whole life now with that slimy ass shit on their mind, you know. And I'm trying to be a pacifist, you know. I'm trying to be like a non-violent person, but those type of people deserve violence. You know, it's like, it is what it is, you know, like that's the only thing that they're gonna respond to, you know? That's it. Some good old, what do you say, wood chipper. Good old wood chipper. All right, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day, and God bless.